All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Championship Sunday here at Homestead Miami Speedway. This is our final media availability of the day, and we're pleased to have Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR, joining us here in the Media Center. Steve, let's start off here with 2019. Has been a season where we've had marked with great racing, some fairly significant industry change, and some real momentum for our sport with ratings up and fan engagement on the rise. Why don't you start off with just some thoughts on how the 2019 season's gone from your vantage?
Thanks, Eric, and thank you everyone for being here this morning. Let me start by doing the same thing I did last year at this press conference, which is to thank the media. The race teams, the drivers, the crews are the ones that provide the compelling stories from the track, but it's what you do with those storylines to amplify those to reach our fan base. So I want to thank you for the job that you do. It's important. Whether this is your first race of the year or it's your 38th race weekend, I want to thank you for being here. Secondly, I'd like to thank or congratulate Matt Crafton, Duke and Rhonda for their Gander Outdoors Truck Series Championship, Matt's third. I want to congratulate Tyler Reddick for his second consecutive Xfinity Championship, and Richard Childress and the RCR folks, as well as Ford on Friday night and Chevy last night. So really excited about what we're going to see today. These four drivers and what they've done to get here, I think, is incredible. I think we're going to see some phenomenal racing in front of a packed house and an unbelievable audience, both from a television standpoint and then digital and social. So with that, I will start to answer your question, Eric. I think if you take a step back and you think back to where we were in February of the Daytona 500, it was an industry that was finding its footing, right? And a sport that was finding its footing. And you could feel the sport kind of rallying around itself. You could feel momentum that was coming, and a real excitement. And the narrative that you all were talking about the sport, it felt different. It felt different. And that difference, in my opinion, really starts at the top. It starts with Jim France and his vision. Jim went to almost every race weekend this year, the 2019 season. He's here because it's important, and he's here because he loves it. He loves NASCAR racing. He loves racing in general. And so that was the start of it, Jim's vision, and then a plan to bring this sport to a place where we were being successful and we're having success. And I would say that if you think and you take stock of where we are, I'd say we had an incredible season. And I'm incredibly proud of the people who work in this industry and what they've done to execute against this plan. Because it's not just NASCAR's plan, it's what NASCAR does and what others do to support what that plan looks like. Race teams, drivers, tracks, our media partners and sponsors. It's really important that everyone has come together. I've been teased a little bit about using the word collaboration too much. I don't think you can use that word too much, frankly. And I would say, and it's building, that the collaboration of this industry is better than it's ever been. So really excited about where that is. If you look at the results, I start with the competition always. Our competition right now in the intermediate tracks and the super speedways, I believe, is the best racing we've ever seen. I'll start with myself as a fan. I love watching and super excited about when we get to these intermediate tracks and these, in the super speedways, the type of racing that we are going to see. Do I think that we need to work with our industry, Goodyear, our race teams, our OEM partners to improve what we're seeing on the short tracks? I do, and we're going to do that in the off season for sure. The results from the competition side are working from a consumption standpoint. So if you look at the fans and what the fans are doing and how they're responding to it, if you look, kind of apples to apples, our ratings are up 4% this year. All of sports is down 9%. We're +4. Importantly, our share is +9. So there are fewer people who are watching television in all sports, obviously, but fewer people watching television overall. So when they were watching, not only do they watch more NASCAR, from a rating standpoint, but when they were tuned in, they were watching more NASCAR. We were taking share from someone else, which is important. So that's television. Our digital and social numbers continue to climb. And they do because we're providing great content on the racetrack, and then how we're repackaging that both on race day, but also during the week. It is compelling and it's working. And then innovation. How are we going to find new fans and innovate and create engagement around existing fans, but also new fans? So 3 things I would highlight there. You look at our announcement on Thursday with Track Pass and NBC Sports Gold. We're thrilled with what that opportunity looks like. We double down from a grassroots standpoint. NBC has been a phenomenal partner on that. So if you look at the grassroots portion of what we're going to see from short tracks, the ARCA Menard Series, what was K&N East and West, ARCA East and West, the opportunity to have IMSA on there, American Flat Track. These are important parts because if motorsports is growing, we at NASCAR, at kind of the top of the heap, we are going to be growing too, and that's important. What's happened from a sports betting standpoint, we're just getting our footing on that. If you look at the what is the integrity portion of that and our relationship with Sports Radar, and then the distribution, that partnership we had with Genius Sports, they're important parts to continue to create engagement with our race fans. And last would be esports, what we've done with iRacing and what we've done with the Heat Pro League. Those numbers in each of those series exceeded our expectations. Couple more things here. Importantly, again, as you take stock of the season, one important thing, and it was a lot of work that folks certainly worked on, was with the ISC NASCAR merger, which was completed roughly a month ago. It will be an important part of what our future holds. So the work that was done getting us to that point, I think will pay dividends down the line. So you're going to take the best of what was ISC and the best of what was NASCAR and create a bigger, stronger entity as NASCAR that will help service the fans. I've also been teased pretty mightily on the fact that every time I come to a press conference like this, I talk about the fans. And I'm going to continue to do that unapologetically, because the first lens that we're going to look through is what the fans are interested in having on the racetrack and how we service those fans. It's critically important. So our broadcast partners important, sponsors important, teams, drivers, absolutely. They're all important stakeholders. The most important stakeholder we have is our fan base. And then lastly, I just want to thank, I wanted to thank the media, which I did. I want to thank the industry. We've had a phenomenal season. 38 race weekends is a lot of race weekends. For me, it went very quickly. I can't believe we're already at our championship race here in Homestead on this Sunday and going to crown our new Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series champion. Whether it's Kevin or Kyle or Martin, their second, or Denny's first, it's going to be phenomenal. But I do want to thank all the stakeholders, our race teams, their crews, our tracks, our media partners. Everyone bands together to create success in this sport, and I think that's exactly what we've done. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
All right, thanks, Steve. As we open it up, raise your hand. We'll get a microphone to you. And as always, please state your name and affiliation. We'll start off with Jim, then we'll go to Jordan, and then Bob.
Jim under motorsport.com. Kind of following up on your comments, there's been kind of a common theme with several people that have come into the media center this weekend, OEMs, drivers, team owners, about a more productive relationship with both you and Jim this season. How has that relationship, first of all, do you agree with that? And second of all, how has that relationship helped you navigate, which I'm sure are differing priorities among those groups when it comes to like the next generation car, the 2021 schedule, and the new engine? And do you feel those initiatives, which you've mentioned many times, remain on the schedule that you hope them to be?
Yes, a lot there, Jim. So I will start by answering, do I think the collaboration and the fact that we have difficult things that we're solving for, and we have solved over the past year, do I think it's helped by having Jim France at the helm? I do. Again, it goes back to, he's the founder of NASCAR's son. We'll start with that. The second is there's not a two-way person in the garage doesn't believe that doesn't feel Jim's presence in the garage as well. So as we're looking to, get the next gen car, which yes is on schedule for a 2021 launch, or other things that might be not serve everyone's agenda, right? Because it's difficult to do that. Do we get, kind of an added boost because Jim is there? Yes, we do.
All right, let's go to Jordan, and then Bob, and then Reed.
Jordan Bianchi, The Athletic. Your recent comment suggests that it isn't set that ISM Raceway is going to host the championship weekend beyond next season. That said, the 2021 schedule is coming out in the spring. So what has to happen between now and the spring for Phoenix to be locked in as the championship weekend beyond next season?
Well, Jordan, I think for us, we need to, as I said in my opening, we need to make sure that we are working with our industry, our teams, our OEMs, and Goodyear, to make sure that the racing we have in Phoenix, both in the spring as well as our championship next year, is as good as it can be. We are going to announce that 2021 schedule, as you said, in the spring, probably around April 1st, which is self-imposed deadline that we have for ourselves. Could that change, forwards and backwards a little bit? Could. But our promise to our fans, and we'll do it right here, is that we are going to provide the best racing we can at our short tracks. I think we've over-delivered on the intermediate tracks, and we will make sure that when we get to Phoenix in the spring, and some of the other racetracks that are short tracks that are going to have better racing.
You say improve the racing on the short tracks. My question then is what steps are you going to take to do that? Because you have said, or NASCAR has said, that you're not going to change the rules package for next year. So what options are on the table? Yeah,
I think that's, again, Jordan, we're going to work with our teams in order to figure out how we do that, work with our OEMs to figure out how we do that. There are some levers that we can pull. Everyone knows I'm not an engineer. I'm not going to play one now. But I am confident, having spoken to people who are far smarter than I am in this space, that there are things that we can do. So, and our teams are excited about trying to partner with us to figure out what that looks like.
All right, good. Let's go with Bob, then Reed, then Jenna.
Bob Hockris, Fox Sports. To build on that, so can you can you cut a spoiler or go to the 2018 package for the short tracks next year? And if so, when would you hope to have a decision on what you're going to do?
Yeah, that's, again, Bob, not to be evasive, there are people far smarter than I am that could figure that out. So yes, could we go to something that is a lower downforce package, and do we think that will probably be one of the answers that we could look at to be successful in the short tracks? Yes, whether it's cutting off the spoiler or other opportunities for us to take some of the downforce off there, those are things that we'll explore. No specific timing.
All right, let's go with Reed, then Jenna, then Dustin.
Reed Spencer with the NASCAR Wire. In terms of growing the fan base, you mentioned the E-Pro League and iRacing. Are you seeing, or can you measure any sort of crossover or synchronicity between that and actual creating physical fans who come to the track and watch on TV?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to do, Lee. So we've got a 12 million fan database that we use to try to talk to our fans, get content that's distributed. Each of these, as I see it, I kind of compartmentalize them, but they all add up to a kind of a summation of how you need to grow this sport. So we had an NBC Motorsports conference early last December, and that Sam Flood had put together. And what Sam did and his team, they created opportunities for folks to talk about the different things that each motorsport was doing. I'm proud to say that every single one that they looked at, we had some type of thing in the pipeline in order to help grow to grow that fan base. It really, to me, is as simple as trying to service that fan wherever they are, whether they're an existing fan or creating new fans that come into the sport. And we're seeing some successes there for sure. We have a stated goal of getting younger and more diverse. And if you look at the numbers, we are doing exactly that in terms of self-identified fans, those that consider themselves to be fans.
All right, let's go with Jenna, then Dustin, then Adam.
Jennifer, AP, I'm sorry, I'm going to take 2 questions because I got 3 people. The first one is,
You're not going to give them the microphone?
well, I could, but yeah, yeah.
I know them.
Yeah. Sponsorship, where are you? When do you expect to say anything on that?
Sure. This is about, our championship, and we wanted to keep it about that. We also wanted to make sure that we were making sure we were true to Monster in their 3 years. I think Monster's been a phenomenal partner for us. They've had significant success with their sponsorship and their entitlement, but we have moved to a different model. I'm not going to get into what the announcement is, but we'll have some announcements in Nashville around that new sponsorship model that we're super excited about.
My second question is Roger Penske's recent business moves. I'm wondering if that maybe strengthens NASCAR's relationship with the Speedway itself, and now that NASCAR owns racetracks and he owns a series, if that maybe leads to a deeper partnership down the road.
Yeah, listen, the Roger Penske is a phenomenal businessman. Everything he touches seems to work, which is great, whether it's on the racetrack or off the racetrack. He's got a decades-long relationship with the France family. I personally have known him for 15 years. He's a man of his word. He works hard. Make sure that whatever he is doing, he is trying to do it with excellence. So do I think that he will improve the good work that's been done by Doug Bowles and Mark Miles? I do. I think the investments that he's going to make, the kind of how he approaches things will be slightly different, and I think it'll be improved. Whether, we have a race in Richmond that we will have next year that's just an IndyCar race coming back on this schedule. Will there be opportunities for other races at our racetracks? I'm not sure. It's certainly something that we explore, and I know, Roger and Bud and Walt and the team won't be shy about coming to knock on the door and say, hey, what do you think about this? And we will certainly entertain that.
All right, let's go with Dustin next, and then Adam, and then Nate.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Steve, Formula One recently introduced the cost cap for teams, and while costs have been something that's been almost a nonstop topic in this sport, there isn't a cost cap yet for teams. When is that going to happen, and are there some elements that will mirror what the F1 cost caps are doing?
Yeah, Dustin, I think one of the reasons why, kind of 3 reasons to go to this new car. One is to take what is great racing, and will be great racing in 2020, to create better racing. And I think this new car will do that, this next-gen car. Another component certainly is around relevance. So our OEM partners who are here looking at the showroom car or the street car versus what our race car will look like, it's going to be extraordinary. And we are going to put the stock back in stock car. And then the last component of that is to try to make sure that the costs associated with the car are not such that they just continue to escalate and iterate on that car. And so whether we are going to have a cost cap moving forward, I don't know. It is not an easy thing to do. We want to make sure that we have competitive racing, and we want, when the race starts, we want as many folks and drivers to win that race as they can. So lots of work to do on what we would do, whether we would have a cost cap or not. But it is something that we continue to work with our race teams on to make sure that we are having competitive race teams and race teams that that are profitable.
And to follow up, I mean, when you say you don't know if you'll have a cost cap, and I understand what you're saying with some of the changes that you guys have done, why wouldn't there be a cost cap? Wouldn't that seem like a logical step to help with the teams?
Well, we're gonna see, right? So we're gonna see how it works with F1, and a little bit of a wait and see approach on that. It is not an easy thing to do, right? So it's how are you going to make sure that the costs are being captured fairly and smartly across the race teams? It is a slippery slope, and it doesn't mean that it's not a good step, or it doesn't mean we're not going to get there. It means that we're going to study it very closely. We're going to study what they're doing. We're going to continue to work with our teams and our OEMs to make sure that whatever we do moving forward makes the most sense for our sport.
All right, let's go next to Adam.
Adam Stern, Sports Business Journal. Hey, Steve. In speaking to IndyCar's Mark Miles a month or two ago, he mentioned that in terms of trying to do a doubleheader with NASCAR, it might need to wait till 2022 because the 2021 NASCAR schedule was already pretty far along. I was wondering if you could give whether it's an exact percentage or just a general sense of how far along the 2021 schedule is towards being done.
Well, we're having a lot of discussions right now on the 2021 schedule, Adam, and we're looking at three things when we're looking at that race schedule. We're looking at where we're going to have the most competitive racing that we can have, where we're going to have full grandstands, and what does that market look like? Is it a new market that we can service? So there are a lot of discussions that are going on both internally and then with other owners of racetracks. Need to obviously work with Speedway Motorsports, need to work with the 3 independent tracks that we have, and then the tracks that we own as NASCAR now. And again, we'll look through that same lens. I think it's important to do that. This is the first time I'll go back to the fans. It really is about the fans, and we need to make sure that we are putting on compelling racing and having full grandstands when we're doing that.
All right, let's go next with Nate, and then Jeff.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Steve, you said a couple of times that the next-gen car is on track for 2021. Can you give us some specific goalposts about some of the elements in that time frame, such as when will teams take delivery on the new car? When will vendors be selected and finalized in that process? And also there's talk that a NASCAR team is bidding to be part of this process and build a significant part of the car. Is NASCAR comfortable with that arrangement?
So yes, the car is on schedule, as I said. With that said, right now we're going through an RFP process, and they're RFPing different parts of the car. So there are parts that fans frankly don't care where we're competing, and there are other parts that fans do care where we're competing. Same with our OEM partners, right? So there are certain things that they want to compete at, certain things they don't really care about. So right now we're in the RFP process. We were already we were on the track already at Richmond. We have another test that's coming up in a couple of weeks. When the teams will take delivery of that car, probably in the July timeframe of when the cars will start to be delivered. Do I think that I have to give a shout out to again, really the entire industry, because they're working collaborative, they're working together. So NASCAR runs the process, but there are teams that are involved, OEMs that are involved, and that's how we're going to be successful moving forward. With respect to those that are in the RFPs to build the car, I don't want to get into specifics about where that is. There would obviously need to be a separation between that race team and whatever either part or the vehicle itself that's being put together. So if there is a team that is interested in competing for what that's going to be, it would have to be kind of removed from what that organization is, if that makes sense.
All right, let's go to Jeff next, and then Lee.
Jeff Gluck from The Athletic. Steve, have you begun to engage any of your existing TV partners in talks about extensions? And if not, when do you expect that to start occurring?
We have not, Jeff. We are through 2024. I would say that we've got two phenomenal media partners. I think you look at Thursday's announcement with NBC, it's just another important milestone for us or win for us to make sure that we are partnering with our media partners smartly. There are a lot of rights negotiations that need to happen in advance of ours. We will take a very measured approach to what we're doing. In the interim, we're going to continue to do what we're doing in order to engage the fan base and be smart about what those opportunities look like. Continue to grow ratings, continue to engage our media partners, whether it's an OTT platform like with NBC, or other content opportunities or promotional opportunities. So if you look at what we do from a marketing standpoint with our broadcast partners or our media partners, it's significantly different than it used to be. Joint creative, promotions from an affiliate standpoint, both from Fox and NBC standpoint. No other sport is doing that other than us with them. And I can tell you they're incredibly appreciative of, and it's working. So for us, it's building on the successes that we have. So whenever we do get to that point of sitting down with our media partners to talk about extension, they'll be absolutely eager to do that and then extend.
All right, let's go with Lee next, and then Jerry.
Lee Spencer, RacingBoys.com. Congratulations on your first year. Can you tell me, if you can critique yourself, what was your highlight? What do you want to work more on? And finally, has any manufacturer, we hear this talk every time this year, that this manufacturer is interested, that the other. Is there anybody right now looking to come into the sport in addition to the big three?
Well, I'm not very good at the first about talking about myself, but I got plenty of critiques that I would go. Highs, I really, for me, it's hard to pick one thing, and I'm just so proud of what the industry has done together, whether it's the next gen car and that continuing, ratings and engagement being up overall, or just some of the phenomenal racing that we've seen. It's hard to pick one thing. Listen, we are fairly self-deprecating. We need to work hard, and we need to execute against the plan. Are there things that we didn't execute against the plan? They're kind of behind-the-scenes things that people don't see. We're just going to get better and better. And I have the good fortune of working on what is the combined NASCAR and ISC as NASCAR. I think we've got the best team in sports, and I'm very, very lucky to work with those individuals. And then, working with the industry broadly is incredibly important. We've seen a lot of really good things. Shifting to your second question on the OEMs, yeah, we have a lot of dialogue. We had some folks out in Phoenix that were an OEM partner that was interested in coming in the sport. It's important for us. And we are working hard to try to determine kind of the timing of that, and what that looks like, and what that partnership would look like moving forward, bringing someone in, because the world's a lot different than it was. We're trying to make it as easy as possible to have an OEM come in, plug in, and start to compete on the racetrack.
All right, let's go to Jerry next.
Jerry Jordan, KinglyTires.net. Along Nate's question about the new car, the engine, I kind of want to focus on the engine electrification and that model. There's been rumors and things about push to pass or stored energy, and then fans worry about taking away the combustion part of the engine. Can you just address some of those issues and what that model is going to look like?
Sure. And I think Steve O'Donnell's talked about this quite a bit. I do think that for a new engine, that engine will have some type of electrification, some hybrid that will be part of it. It's kind of a follow to Lee's question. I don't believe we're going to have an OEM. In fact, I know it for a fact. We will not have a new OEM unless we change our engine. This engine's going to sound significantly the same as whatever the current engine is. So we're not going to have a bunch of electric cars going around. That's not what this is about. It's about having a relevant engine to our OE partners, both the existing Ford, Chevy, and Toyota, as well as whoever the new OEs that we're looking at. some form of hybrid, some form of electrification is going to be required. Whether it's stored engine or whatever that might be is down the line. But ideally, creating a single engine package as opposed to taking an engine and kind of choking the horsepower down is something that I believe we will ultimately get to. What that looks like, frankly, will be a discussion between ourselves and our existing OEs, because we need to make sure that we are taking care of them first and foremost before we get a new OEM into the garage. They have been incredibly supportive of that. So we've had a couple of different partners come to the racetrack, and we had some last week. We had a group that came when we were at Talladega, and each of the OEs showed them what they do. This is what Ford does. This is what we do at GM. This is what we do at Toyota. And that's incredibly helpful because they too want to be able to compete on the racetrack with other OEs.
And when they came in here yesterday, they talked about each having identifiable engines, so that's would continue.
Yeah, no question. I think it's really important for them to have not just a body style that looks like theirs. That never gets old, does it? But also an engine, right? And an engine that is their engine. And I think that will be an important component moving forward as well.
All right, we're going to close out with one more question. We're going to end with Chris, please.
Yeah, Chris Knight, CatchFence.com. Steve, I was just wondering if NASCAR was considering any type of initiative to encourage new ownership in the sport.
Yeah, Chris, I think it's important that we get new. There we have it. Get new ownership in the sport. I do believe this next-gen car will help with that, frankly, because I don't think you're going to need to be a manufacturer, kind of manufactured as an OE or as a team, which will be a much easier model, I think, for them to say, hey, I see where this sport is going, and I think this next-gen car will be kind of at the center of getting new ownership into the sport.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate your time on this. This is the end of the media availability. Everyone, let's have a great race day.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. It does.